And then I am going to share my screen and we'll get started.
Right. I'll be tech support.
Yes, Cindy, can you see how to stop yo-yo dieting?
Yes, I can.
Awesome, perfect.
I'll
We're in
let
the
you know if it advances.
Okay, thank you.
Although your screen's cut off.
Oh, it is?
Yeah, I only see half of the W.
Is that better?
We're good.
Okay, now you can see everything. Okay.
Yep.
Okay, awesome. Well, welcome to the workshop. I'm excited for you all to be here today. And today we are diving into how to stop yo-yo dieting. And if you don't have a pen or a paper, or like, I know some people like to take notes in their phones, but just somewhere you can take some notes on, because I will be sharing a lot of valuable information and giving you some strategies of how to stop yo-yo dieting. So being able to write those down can be beneficial and helpful. So make sure you have that. And during today's workshop, I'll be sharing strategies to help you stop yo-yo dieting, really so you can no more food drama, right? We can walk down the aisle of any, like at the grocery store, you can walk down any food aisle, whichever one kind of triggers you, and you can walk down and not feel like out of control around that food. Like you're going to grab that food, whether it be the pretzels, whether it be the crackers, whether it be the chocolate. I want you to feel confident walking down that aisle and not feeling controlled by food. I want you to be able to go to gatherings and functions and dinners and not feel anxious around food because you're restricting that food. I don't want you to have like this off-limit food and have that anxious feeling. I want you to feel comfortable around all foods, and really even getting away from this idea of having off-limit foods. And I want you to drop the guilt and shame that comes with eating those off-limit foods, especially when we're on diets, when we're on these restrictive diets, and we think of off-limit foods like sugar, right? Like, oh, we can't have sugar, it's off limits. But then I eat it and then I feel guilty for eating it. Okay, and so when you address that with curiosity and compassion, it is a whole different experience, and you let go of that guilt and shame around eating those foods. And I want you to feel empowered about the choices you make around food and not feel like food is controlling you. I want you to be like, I'm choosing to eat this food versus, oh, this food is making me, it's just like making me eat it, right? And then also saying no to foods because you want to, not because you have to. Right? Because like when we're on a diet, a restrictive diet, we're like, oh no, I can't have that. I'm on a diet, or that's not in my meal plan, or that's not in my program. But really saying no to a food because like I genuinely don't feel like that food right now. And maybe there's another day where you genuinely feel like it and you say yes to it. And it's all okay. Right? And so this is all possible for you. And like why I say this is because before I worked on my relationship with food and my emotional eating, my cravings, I didn't know that this was possible. I didn't know that I could walk down any aisle of the grocery store and not feel pulled by foods. Like I would who all avoids certain aisles in the grocery store? Anybody? Right? Because we don't want to feel tempted. We don't want to feel pulled to that food. But now I'm like, I can walk down any aisle and it's fine. I'm not gonna get that food if I'm choosing not to. So I just want you to know what's possible when we really stop yo-yo dieting, stop the restriction, work on our emotional eating, and build that healthy relationship with food. So for those of you who don't know me, I'm Kisa Amaro. I'm a certified health coach and mindset coach, and I help women reduce their cravings and emotional eating and really feel in control around food without feeling deprived and without having those complicated meal plans. I'm also the host of the Lose Your Cravings podcast. This is a podcast where I share tools and strategies to help you lose cravings and really feel in control around food. I'm a yoga teacher, which yoga has really helped me bring awareness and mindfulness to my eating habits, which in turn has helped me feel in control around food and really have that compassion for myself through this whole process. And I'm also a mother, that's my daughter Antonia, and I'm a wife, that's my husband Austin. So let's dive in. What is yo-yo dieting? So if you signed up for this workshop, then you probably already know what yo-yo dieting is. It's when you go on a restrictive diet and lose some weight, but the diet is unrealistic, right? Or it's unsustainable. And you end up gaining weight back because you just can't stick to this diet. You end up overeating and then gaining the weight back, losing momentum. So by the end of today's workshop, you will have 3 strategies that are tailored to your needs to help you stop yo-yo dieting. So what's wrong with it? Like, why should we get away from yo-yo dieting? Why do we want to stop this cycle? And there's many reasons up here, right? I have like lack of consistency. Like, we're not consistent with our nutrition. We're in this cycle of, I call it binge or restriction, where you're restricting certain foods, you're on some sort of diet, you're actively trying to lose weight in a restrictive way, and then it's unsustainable, and then you overeat. So there's a lot of inconsistencies with your nutrition. You have weight fluctuations, which can be frustrating. You have to buy different clothes. You have 2 sets of clothes in your closet. You have your fat clothes and your skinny clothes. You get frustrated. There's a lack of confidence within yourself and around food. Maybe it's like you don't know what to eat because you just can't stick to a diet, right? You're like, okay, I'm going to try this new diet. And you try it for 3 weeks and then something happens, it's unsustainable. And you're like, okay, well, that didn't work. And you've tried 10 other diets and none of those work. So it's like, well, what do I eat? So I'm like, I don't even know what to eat because I can't stick to any diets. You feel hopeless, depressed. Maybe you're over exercising for compensating. You don't get those long-term results. You get maybe some quick results, but they're fleeting. Then you end up gaining the weight back. You feel deprived, you feel left out when other people are eating food that you can't eat when you're on this restrictive diet. You feel out of control around food. Like I said, the restrict binge cycle. And then there's also like the negative talk about yourself and your body, which comes into play. So I can assume that we don't want this, right? This does not look like fun. Right? This, on the other hand, I can go for this, right?
Absolutely.
So what I want to do right now is you can either think this in your head or you can write it down. What problems do you notice yo-yo dieting causes for you? So if you're yo-yo dieting and you just, kind of going on a diet and then off, your weight fluctuates up and down. What are some problems that you notice when you're yo-yo dieting? So I'll give you 1 minute. I'm gonna set my timer. You can go ahead and start. About 15 seconds. Okay. You can go ahead and finish up that thought. And I will open the floor. You don't have to share, but if anybody would like to share what they notice, you're more than welcome to. You can unmute yourself and share.
For me, the yo-yoing made me really cranky.
Yes. So like your
Yeah.
mood.
Yeah, it's also like you feel like you constantly are losing, right?
Mm,
Never winning because you didn't stick to that. Oh, you went up. Oh, you went down. Really great. Oh crap, you went back up again. So it's like, okay, you're the loser in the wrong sense of the word, and it's very frustrating.
mm,
Mhm.
It
yeah,
was. And having
definitely.
2 sets of clothes was really bad.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. It's like there's so many clothes in your closet and none of them fit.
Well, I have the same problem now, but for the good reasons.
For different reasons, right?
Different reasons. But it also killed my metabolism.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
It took me a while to get that back into working order. I mean, getting older didn't help that either, but
Mhm.
you know, I think I really killed it for a long time, given the number of things that I had tried.
Okay. Anybody else like to share?
I think I feel also the kind of the same things, like it causes like a negative impact in my emotions. It affects negatively also the dynamic or the way I interact with other people. It feels like a failure. And yeah, like I cannot achieve and maintain something in my life.
Mm,
Feels like that sometimes.
yeah. Thank you for sharing, Claudia.
Sure.
The clothes thing, that can be expensive.
Yes. Yes. Money for clothes.
But I think I can understand every one of those items you had listed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But it's definitely not healthy for the body to go up and down.
Right. Yeah. There's definitely health risks with that too. Yeah. Well, thank you for sharing. I appreciate it. And I do like I encourage you to share. You obviously don't have to, but it's just it kind of helps to build that community because once someone shares, you're just like, "Oh yeah, I can yeah, like, oh, I get it." You know, like you can relate and you're just like, "Okay, I'm not alone." So it just helps you feel that community. So I appreciate that. So what causes yo-yo dieting? Why does this even happen? Number one, restrictive diets, right? You're following overly restrictive diets, whether it's calorie counting, macro counting, cutting out a food group or multiple food groups or multiple foods. Um, and then you feel deprived. You feel deprived around these foods because you're like, oh, I can't have that. I can't have that. That's not on my plan. It's not in my meal plan. And then your deprivation triggers these cravings, right? And so you feel deprived, so you want this food. You always want, but you can't have. So you want the food. And then you can have willpower for a while. You might be able to say no for a while, but you eventually give in. And then you overeat and gain the weight back. Okay? Um I listed a bunch of diets. I'm like, what is this? So I'm looking at my notes. And then there's also like restrictive diets also encourage this idea of good foods and bad foods, right? We've probably in our mind have this idea that there's good foods out there and there's bad foods, and that we should eat the good foods, we should stay away from the bad. Well, usually the bad foods are the really tasty ones that we're like, oh, I shouldn't have that. We feel deprived around those bad foods. We eat the bad foods, and then we feel guilty for eating the bad foods. Okay. So next is really having these unrealistic expectations. So setting unrealistic weight loss goals or expecting rapid results can contribute to the yo-yo dieting, when, especially when these expectations are not met, like let's lose 30 pounds in 30 days, right? I'm sorry, friends, that is not healthy. That is not sustainable. It's a quick fix. Please don't do it. But we have these expectations, and I think in diet culture that we've grown up in, that's all around us, it's this idea of losing weight quickly. And so we have this expectation that we are going to lose weight quickly, and then we don't, right? You get discouraged, and then you revert back to your old habits, and then you gain the weight back, and sometimes more even, right? So really, like, having these unrealistic goals and expectations will lead you to not reaching your goal, or reaching it in a way that's unsustainable or unhealthy, and then eventually gaining the weight back. And then of course you feel frustrated with yourself and you give up, and it's like that guilt and shame come in. It's like that negative mindset or negative mood. I think Cindy, you mentioned mood, like that hopelessness. And then something else that causes yo-yo dieting is emotional eating. So using food as a coping mechanism for things like stress, boredom, or another emotion can contribute to yo-yo dieting. Emotional eating often leads to periods of overeating, right? We eat to cover up an unwanted emotion. And then we're like, oh my gosh, I ate all that food. Let me restrict this food. Now I'm going to restrict. And so then you go into that restrictive eating, and that causes that yo-yo dieting. And then lastly, unsustainable habits, right? And this is kind of like unrealistic expectations, but like focusing solely on short-term solutions rather than looking for those long-term and trying to work on those long-term lifestyle changes can contribute to yo-yo dieting. Without sustainable habits in place, you're going to struggle to maintain weight loss, right? If once again you go on a restrictive diet that's like, oh, I can't have dairy, I can't have sugar, I can't have grains, I can't have gluten, or I can't have this or that. It's not sustainable in the real world, right? In this world that we live in. And often those strict diets are also encourage that all or nothing mindset, right? Whereas there's foods I honestly choose not to eat a lot of, but if I do eat it, that's okay. I haven't done anything wrong. I haven't eaten anything bad. Okay. So creating or those unsustainable habits can really cause yo-yo dieting. So it's like that overly restricting or even over exercising. Okay, so what do you, I have a typo. What do you think is the cause of your yo-yo dieting for you? I'm like, that makes no sense. Should say, what do you think is the cause? Like, what do you think is causing your yo-yo dieting? And I'll go ahead and set a timer. So you can go ahead and start. So it could be maybe restrictive diets, unrealistic expectations, emotional eating, or unsustainable habits. Like we're trying to create these habits, but they're really unsustainable. Or it could be something else. This is not an end all be all. So if you have something else popping in your head, you can write it down. Okay, sorry, about 5 seconds. I wasn't looking at the timer. Okay, you can go ahead and finish your thoughts. And then once again, I'll open it up. If anybody would like to share, you're more than welcome to.
For me, it's been emotional eating and a little bit of a restrictive diet, but I think it's more emotional eating.
Okay. Mhm.
Yeah, I'll add to that, the media pushes
Mhm.
this, the quick weight loss thing,
Yeah.
right? We can go back and laugh at it, golo.com, I'm going on this trip, I gotta lose, 50 pounds before I go in 2 weeks. And, they're pushing that, and now they're pushing Ozempic and keto gummies. And it's that people are kind of saying, this is what's wrong with you and this is how you fix it, and, you can bombard it with the messaging.
Yeah,
And
for
and for
sure.
me, it was emotional eating and trying to lose weight before doctor's appointments,
Oh, yeah.
because you have that whole BMI discussion.
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
I agree.
Yeah.
And the emotional eating, definitely.
Mhm. Okay. So let's look at what we've tried to do to fix yo-yo dieting. And first going back, sorry, to that previous question, it's really good to be aware of like why are we like what is causing this yo-yo dieting? Because that's can help us with strategies to help solve it. We always want to know like why we're doing it. So what are things that you've tried to fix your yo-yo dieting? Okay. And usually, well, I don't want to say usually. I think in the past, and I've been there myself, like we've been trying to fix yo-yo dieting by, things like trying a new diet, restricting more food, other food groups, um, joining a challenge or a detox, right? 30-day challenges, 30-day detox, over exercising, right? These are all things that we've tried. And it's really like we're stuck in this cycle of restricting food to lose weight, strong cravings or feeling deprived, strong cravings, and then overeating, right? And then we gain the weight back. And I assume since you're here, this is not something you want. So, how do we stop yo-yo dieting? Key, you must address the underlying cause of yo-yo dieting. Okay, you cannot fix yo-yo dieting by restricting food. That's not the answer. Okay, you will go insane trying to diet your way out of yo-yo dieting. So we must address the underlying cause of yo-yo dieting. Okay, it's not your lack of willpower. It's not your lack of discipline. It's not your inability to stick to a diet plan. It's not your lack of knowledge. It's not that you were on the wrong diet. Okay. So let's get curious about yo-yo dieting. Okay. I always like to get curious about what is going on for me because this is where we find the answers. Right? Why are you dieting in the first place? Right? Why do you want to lose weight? Why do you want to fit into a size X, right? Insert size. Okay. Why do we want those things? That can help us find that root cause. Okay. So what I want to do is I want to share 3 strategies to help you stop yo-yo dieting. Now with this, with like whether it's a podcast or it's a workshop, I always encourage you to start with one thing first. So I'm going to give you 3 strategies. Choose one that you're like, yes, I can wrap my head around that. Yes, I can implement that. Okay. Get good at it and then start the next one. So number 1 is to create sustainable habits over time. Okay. I like to think of this as small steps or progress, not perfection. So instead of, I'm not eating sugar for 30 days, right? That's very drastic and rash. Do this instead. Look through your pantry or fridge, check ingredient labels, right? And see what foods you have that have added sugar. Like if you're like, yeah, I eat too much sugar, I'm just gonna go 30 days without sugar, right? That's gonna backfire on you. Look through your pantry, look through the fridge, look and see what foods have added sugar. Choose 1 to 2. That's it. 1 to 2 items that you can swap with a version that doesn't have as much added sugar or doesn't have added sugar. Okay. So example, flavored yogurt. Flavored yogurt has so much sugar in it. You can swap that with plain Greek yogurt. You could add berries, you could add protein powder, you could add stevia to sweeten it, right? That's something you can do. Okay. And then once this food is normal and doable, right? It's like more habitual. Like, okay, now when I go to the grocery store, I buy plain Greek yogurt. I don't buy the strawberry flavored or the blueberry flavored with added sugar. Okay. So once this is like normalized, go find another food that has added sugar in it. Okay. Like salad dressing, sauces, and find a brand that supports you. Oh, wow. Hold on 1 second. My email just wanted to come up. It like popped up. Yeah, so finding a brand, and you can also use the concept of, I love this concept of adding in. So instead of thinking of taking something away, think of adding in something. Okay, I'm going to eat 1 serving of veggies at every meal. Okay, that's adding a vegetable. If you're not doing that already, obviously, if you're like trying to decrease your sugar intake, I'm gonna eat 1 serving of vegetables at every meal. Okay. So when we add things in, it gently crowds out other things, right? We only got so much room on our plate. We only have so much room in our stomach. So we add these things in and it starts to crowd out the others. And then I want to share this. The idea of the tortoise and the hare, right? We all know the classic tale of the tortoise and the hare. I want you to be the hare. Sorry, I want you to be the tortoise. You are the hare right now, right? You're the hare right now. And guess what? You're losing. Okay, I want you to be the tortoise. I want you to take it slow and steady. Because guess what? The tortoise wins, right? The tortoise wins in the end, right? So how can you create a sustainable habit over time? Right? So let's journal about this. So maybe see like, where have I had unrealistic expectations? Maybe I have restricted a whole food group. Maybe I have been counting too many, restricting too many calories. And how can I make it into a sustainable habit over time? Because like I'm all for, if you're like, I'm eating too much sugar, and you want to reduce your sugar intake, I'm all for that. Right? If you genuinely want to do that for yourself, you're like, I know I'll feel better. But how do we do this in a sustainable way? So I'll give you 1 minute to think about that. So where have you set unrealistic expectations? And then how can you make this a sustainable habit over time? Grab my timer. Give you 1 minute. Gotta think fast. Or if you're watching the replay, you can always pause me. That's fine too.
Oh,
Okay, about 5 seconds. Okay, that's it. Cindy, did it scare you? Sorry, that was really loud.
Those- You're trying to kill me tonight.
Okay, would anybody like to share?
I think I've been unrealistic when I get there, and the moment I get there, I forget about all the things that help me to achieve the results.
Hmm.
So it's like it ends. It's like
Well,
I've been doing,
when you say there, are you talking about a specific weight?
yes, or a specific date.
Oh,
It's the
date.
weight or the date. So it's like, okay, I leave it through until here, and now I let it go, and then I'll go back to the old um, habits. That's
Mhm.
one thing that's happened to me. And then I think it's when it's more sustainable is when the changes are like little by little, and I keep adding one thing. And also when I don't expect myself to be perfect,
Mhm.
because if I fail at something, then I feel like, okay, forget about it, I failed. So you mentioned the word of being nice to ourselves, and to be, not to be mean to ourselves. And I think that helps me, because I can be very, not to have grace to myself. And I think that makes me just to go in a down the hill mood.
Yeah. So maybe something you can do is start working on having grace and compassion for yourself, right? Through this process. Because it's a learning process, right? We're all learning. It's a learning process. We're humans. We're not going to be perfect, and that's okay. And having grace and compassion for yourself through the process.
Yeah, I think for me was to learn to be patient.
Mm, yeah.
Because when you've tried so many different things and you've had mixed results, you're going for the quick wins all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And the quick wins really hadn't been sustainable. It's like, you cut out carbs, you eat fats, but then you find you're eating very unhealthy fats
Mm-hmm.
because, yeah, it's what Atkins kind of pushed. It doesn't matter, it was a fat, right?
Right, right.
Um, so I think for me is finding that balance of finding switching out the the bad for the good carbs, or the healthy ones, not good and bad food, but the
Mhm.
healthier ones for you that make you feel better and give you more sustainable energy. And when you
Yes.
yeah, when you cut out the carbs and you find you're lacking at 3 in the afternoon, it could just because you find that you're not intending to restrict, but you think I'm not hungry, so I'm not going to eat anything. And when indeed you probably just need a little bit, cup of berries or something just to keep your energy at a steady state.
Yeah. Yeah. No, and I like those carbs that are, I want to say nutrient dense, but it's like you get a lot of energy, sustained energy from them versus the carbs that are like they lack fiber and they're going to spike your blood sugar and then you're going to be tired after it, right? Like, and I think that's, back to diet cultures, we have this idea that carbs are bad. And so then we think all carbs are, it's like sugar's a carb, but also black beans are a carb, right? Those are two vastly different foods. But we think all of it's bad. So it's like choosing those foods that are going to help maintain that energy for you. I love that. Okay. So let's look at our second strategy. And this one is stop dieting. Okay. And I will say you can set parameters, not food rules. Okay. So now before you turn me off and leave the workshop, right? Hear me out. I know this is a very hard one to wrap your head around, and I totally get it because you're probably thinking if I stop dieting, then I will just eat all the food. Okay. I will gain all the weight. I will sit on the couch for the rest of my life and be miserable. Okay. What if I told you that it is actually your restriction that is keeping you in the cycle of yo-yo dieting? Okay, it's keeping you in the cycle of losing some weight, feeling deprived, cravings, and then overeating, gaining the weight back, and feeling awful about it. We want what we can't have. I can't have chocolate. Guess what you're gonna do? You're gonna crave chocolate, right? I can't have chips. Guess what you're gonna do? Crave chips. Okay, we fear that we will not be able to control ourselves if we don't have hard and fast food rules. So this is where you need to learn to trust yourself around food. Okay, you can create parameters, but let go of food rules. So what do parameters look like? It could be something like, I enjoy ice cream once a week, right? Versus, oh, I can't have ice cream because then I end up eating a pint of ice cream, right? I can have ice cream once a week. I listen to my physical hunger and I honor my hunger signals. I eat foods that feel good in my body. I eat the amount of foods that feel good to me. I nourish my body. Maybe it's something like, tomorrow I'm going to have 2 cookies. Like that's a parameter. And kind of like what Cindy said about choosing those carbs that give her sustained energy. Like she knows, like if I eat a bag of pretzels, I'm not going to have sustained energy. But if I eat, some black beans or an apple after a workout, I'm going to have sustained energy. So maybe look and see what food rules do you have and how can you create a less restrictive parameter, something that's more of like, this is what I do versus, oh, I can't have that. I don't eat that, or like that's not on my plan. And how can you create it more of a parameter and less restrictive? And if you have any questions about not dieting and think I'm crazy, please ask them. Like I genuinely would love to chat because this is like, and I debated putting this on here because I know it's one of those hard things that you're just like, no, I can't do that. Like you don't get it, Kisa. Like if I'm not on a diet, I'm just going to eat all the food. but it's really the diet that's causing you to eat all the food. Okay, so let me start the timer now. Okay, 1 minute. About 10 seconds. Okay, you can go ahead and finish your thought. And then I'll open the floor if anybody would like to share or has questions, please ask.
For me, it was pretzels.
Mhm.
Because I use pretzels to, I like the crunchiness of it because it helped me get rid of some frustrations during the workday. So for several months, I would not buy pretzels. I wouldn't even go down the aisle.
Mhm.
Because I was afraid the pretzels would attack me and I'd have to take them home. Um, and then I thought, well, if I really wanted them, I can walk up to the Wawa or mini market and just buy one bag and get my pretzel craving, you know, get through it. And now I can buy them, and if I want to have some pretzels, I have, a serving, and they last more than a day in my house. So now they can last a couple weeks just by, if I want them, I have a little bit and then I'm done with it. So
Mhm. Yeah. And you know what, Cindy, like just to share with other people who are listening to this, Cindy and I have worked together for a while. And it's really about building that trust with yourself around the food and know that you're not gonna overeat the food, right? Like I can have pretzels in my house and not overeat it.
yep. It takes a while to build that trust.
It does. It does for sure. Yeah. Would anybody else like to share?
Well, I don't really have food rules like I shouldn't eat this or I won't eat chocolate. I have more, it's like I need protein in the morning
Mm-hmm.
and I try to have vegetables at lunch and dinner.
Mm-hmm.
And oftentimes in the morning, if we have leftover veggies or I make a scramble.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I don't say, well, I can eat chocolate. I'll say I shouldn't eat chocolate, or what I should do is walk by and say, oh, I don't think I want you today. I'm going to maybe have you tomorrow or next year, but
Yeah. And I think you bring up a really good example of the food parameters and adding in. It's just like, okay, breakfast, I always get a protein, right? And that's smart, right? Protein keeps you full and satiated. Dinner or lunch and dinner, I have vegetables, right? Those are great food parameters, right? Um, yeah. Awesome. Thank you, Sharon.
I think for a
oh,
long time I had this. Go ahead,
I
Sherry.
was just going to say, and your comment about quit dieting makes sense to me.
Okay, that's good. Someone's
I
picking
think
it up. I know
sometimes
she is too.
just the word diet is like,
Yeah.
oh man, I'm gonna suffer because I have to diet.
Yeah. Yeah, just the word has that negative connotation to it. Yeah. Go ahead, Claudia.
Oh, I was saying that for so many months I didn't have any rice. That was my rule. No rice, no carbs for a long, long time. And I think so then when I finished the program, what I did, I went like crazy for rice. Like couldn't stop myself. I mean, at least not all the time, but when I was going out and we would have like Indian food, I will have a lot of rice because that was the food that is not allowed at home.
Mm-hmm.
So I created a new rule and I can have a half a cup of rice or some, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's like a parameter, right? Because and part of that too, Claudia, is like you see the amount that serves you, right?
Mhm.
Restricting rice does not serve you because then it causes you to want to get it every time you go out. And when it's like this almost, I don't want to say treat, but like this kind of like taboo, like, oh, I can't have that in the house, so I'm going to get it when I go out.
Overeat it. It's like when I have a pizza, it's the same thing. Have a
Yeah.
cheese pizza is not allowed in the house. I
Mhm.
mean, I'm not allowed to have too much. So when I have the pizza in front, I have the first, the second, the third,
Mhm.
and then I'm good with three. But it's because I haven't been able to be less restrictive with it at home, I think.
Yeah, and so like, okay, when I have rice, I have a half a cup of rice, and like that serves me, that satisfies me, and I'm not restricting myself, but I'm not overeating. So I love that. Thank you. Okay. Okay, so that should say 3 right there instead of 2. So this is the third strategy to help you stop over our yo-yo dieting, and that is to address emotions that you are covering up with food, right? So if you're an emotional eater, let's face it, most of us are at some point, sometime in our life or other, at some point or other. Then we need to address emotional eating, right? And we need to address the root cause of your emotional eating, right? So when we're emotional eating, you're trying to solve an emotional problem with food. Okay. And that's not going to work, right? You want to restrict food so you don't eat emotionally. So I invite you to look beyond the food and see why you are eating it in the first place. Ask yourself, why am I eating this carton of ice cream? From this place of curiosity, right? We're not judging ourselves. We're not like putting ourselves down. But genuine, like, okay, why am I eating out of the bag of chips? Right? Why am I overeating this rice? Why am I, whatever it is? Okay. What am I feeling that I don't want to feel? So I'm eating food so I don't have to feel it. Am I stressed? Am I frustrated? Am I lonely? Am I agitated, annoyed, overwhelmed? Right? What is that emotion? So to get to the root cause of the emotional eating, you need to ask yourself, what is this emotion I'm trying to cover up? Okay. And then once you find that, find ways to process and allow your emotions without food or other distracting techniques, right? Because we could go from food to Netflix or food to social media or food to alcohol, right? We really want to find the root cause and like what is causing this stress and finding ways to process and allow your stress that doesn't include food. So example, things like journaling, meditating, breath work, allowing your emotions. So sitting in the stress, sitting in the frustration and just allowing it to be there. Body scan is great for that. Okay. So if you identify with emotional eating, what emotion do you cover up with food? And how can you process and allow it without using food? Okay, I'll give you 1 minute. Oh, about 5 seconds left. Okay, go ahead and finish that thought that you're on. And then I'll open up the floor if anybody would like to share.
Yeah, I think the first thing you have to realize is that you are an emotional eater. I mean, I had no idea. I had no idea that I was. And then I realized why. It was mainly boredom. Boredom and work frustration were the two big things that I had to really figure out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's such a good point, Cindy. And I was in the same boat. Like I didn't realize I was an emotional eater. I just felt like I couldn't control myself around food. Right? That was what I thought. I'm like, oh, I just need more willpower. I don't need more discipline. I just can't control myself around this. But when, I dove deeper, it's like, oh, I'm eating because I'm procrastinating, or I'm eating because I'm bored or stressed or lonely, right? Those are all the reasons I was eating or agitated. And then once I addressed that part of my life, that's when I was able to reduce that emotional eating. I was able to manage, the stress, the procrastination, the loneliness without food. Anybody else like to share?
My emotion is definitely frustration
Mm-hmm.
and processing it. I just have to just stop and think, okay, why are you frustrated? Well, that's usually pretty obvious. But what can I do about it besides eating? What can I do that will have a positive outcome? And think about it that way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, good. Thank you.
I think for me it's uncertainty,
Mm,
anxiety, stress, you name them,
mm-hmm.
any emotion, good or bad. I think I'm happy, eat food. The only time I remember I was really, I didn't have appetite is loss of a relative or something like that. That's the only time in my life that I really had no appetite. Everything else
Mm-hmm.
just makes me a emotional eater.
Mm-hmm.
And then when you ask how can we process and allow without using food, I think that's one of the most difficult things for me to do is sit on my emotions.
Yeah.
That's the hard part, just to sit and take those 5 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's what I am
Mm-hmm.
at the time.
Yeah, and we're not taught how to sit and allow and process our emotions, right? That's not taught in school. So it can be a foreign concept, right? It can be very I don't want to say weird, but like uncomfortable. It can be very uncomfortable and very
Yeah,
like
it's
doing this right? Like what is going on? Like,
yeah. You don't want to feel it. You don't
yeah,
want to think about it. You just want to go and get whatever is gonna make you calm and just have it. And then you're fine, happy,
and you're
and
fine
at
and happy
peace.
for that moment.
Yeah, yeah. In the moment.
For that moment. Yeah.
And I think the other thing, at least for me, is when you grow up and you're told that you're overly emotional, the last thing you want to do is sit in the emotion that you probably shouldn't be having anyway.
First place.
So
Yeah.
yeah, I thought that was another realization.
Mhm. Definitely. And to like understanding that emotions are a normal part, they're a part of this human experience, it's a part of this life. Okay, so we have creating sustainable habits over time, stop dieting, so letting go of those food rules and creating more of those food parameters, And then addressing emotions that you're covering up with food or emotional eating. So I have a couple episodes here for you of the Lose Your Cravings podcast. Let me see. Oh, I can put the links in the show note. Let me copy and paste those. But I have steps to reduce your emotional eating. So that's what we just talked about. And then why traditional diets don't work. So sharing a little bit more about why these traditional restrictive diets don't work. So I'll put the links. I think you might have to, oh no, it showed up as a link. So you might have to copy and paste, but. There you go. So that's just some kind of like supplemental information. If you want more information, go a little deeper. I have those there for you. And then if you are ready to feel in control around food, really, so you can walk down any aisle in the grocery store and not feel controlled by the food or feeling the pull of the tempting foods, then I invite you to book a call with me. And this call is a complimentary call. It's a one-on-one call for my Transform Your Cravings program. On this call, I share with you the 4 pillars or strategies that I share and teach you to help you feel in control around food and not let food control you. Looking at letting go of food drama and not feeling that pull of food as you walk down the grocery aisle, really trusting yourself around food, to have any food in the house, right? Like, I know some of you live alone, but some of you live with other people, and it's hard to control what we have in the house, and other people want other food. So what are we going to do, right? We can't control our environment always. So how do I handle those situations and feel comfortable and not anxious around food? And really, like, if you want to learn how to take back your time and your energy that you like meticulously spend planning your food, counting calories, counting macros, we want to take that time back, and I want to give you like time and energy to spend on things that you enjoy doing. Okay. And I also want you to feel confident to show up in your career, in your family, with your friends, because you feel confident around food. You're not feeling like deprived, you're not feeling anxious around food, but you really feel confident and at ease around food. So if you're ready to really dive in, work on your yo-yo dieting, emotional eating, then book this complimentary call. It's completely free. There's no obligation. It's basically a chance to see if we would be a good fit. I'll ask you what you're struggling with, what you want for yourself, right? What do you really want in regards to food and your emotional eating and cravings, and how I can help get you there. Okay, so my Transform Your Cravings program it's a one-on-one program, and it's 6 months. So we would meet every other week for those 6 months, and it's $1,800 or $300 a month. I like to be upfront with my pricing, so there's no surprises. I will put my calendar link in the show notes, and then I'll also have it with the replay. When I send out the replay, the calendar link will be in the email, so you can set up a call. If I can find the chat. There we go. Okay, so there's my calendar, super easy. Awesome. Okay, my friends, what is one insight or takeaway that you got from today's workshop? You can think of it in your head. If you want to share, you can share.
I'll share.
Okay.
Replace something that's not as nutritious or beneficial for the body with something that is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So adding in those things. Yep. Nice.
Sure. That diet is a 4-letter word.
That it is. That it is.
I like the idea of the tortoise and the hare. I feel like,
Hair, yeah,
we are here, we're conscious, we're trying,
yep.
so we're getting somewhere. It's just patience, like Cindy said. That's something that I think we all need to develop.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I saw what Esther put in the chat was that, it didn't come on overnight. And yeah, the weight doesn't come on overnight, the habits don't come on overnight.
It's true.
So you
Yeah.
can't fix it overnight. I mean, I swear I woke up 100 pounds heavier, but it's true. It takes time.
I agree. I can relate.
Oh my gosh, yeah, right. Um, yeah, and that's such a good point, like the weight doesn't come on overnight. It's not going to come off overnight, right? As we've developed these habits over time, and so it's going to take time to develop new habits. Yeah. Awesome.
It also totally, stop dieting, like solving our issue with more diet. It's
Yes. We're
because
trying to solve the problem with dieting, and that's not the way to solve it. Yeah. Yeah. Perfect. So what's one thing that you will do? So I shared 3 strategies with you and I had you kind of journal about each one. So all you need to do is choose one. What's one thing that you can do to help you stop yo-yo dieting? Once again, you can share or you can just think about it in your head, write it down.
I think creating the strategies around food that usually are my, my biggest to-go foods that are not serving me, and
Mm.
having a strategy
Mm.
instead of have the mentality that I cannot have them
Yes.
and continue dieting, have
Mm.
the mentality like, okay, I need to have a strategy with when I come across a huge pizza with all my family, or when I come across a really good dessert
Mhm.
or Indian food, just have a strategy.
Mhm.
So then I'll be more, I think, secure of myself around food, and I'll know what to do instead of, having
Yeah.
it all.
Yes. Yes, having that strategy. For sure. And too, that comes with like letting go of that restriction. Yeah. And it's not like you have to eat pizza. Like I don't restrict ice cream, but I don't eat it very often either. So it's not like I'm not restricting so I have to eat it. No. It's just I don't restrict it and therefore now I don't really crave it. It's so funny. Right? So,
And that right there, just to believe that when you stop restricting, you're gonna crave it less. That's hard to
it is.
understand.
It
That's
is.
an idea that I cannot comprehend. I mean,
Yeah.
how come when you don't desire the ice cream, you don't want it any longer?
A lot of it is it's our thoughts around ice
Yeah,
cream,
yeah.
right? And it's this idea of you want what you can't have. So
Mhm.
I had this idea that ice cream was bad. Ice cream's going to make me fat. If I eat it, I've ruined my diet. So
Mhm.
I had to shift the way I thought about ice cream. Ice cream is not bad, it's neutral. Right? Ice cream is just food is neutral. Any food is neutral. It's not until we put our thoughts around it that it becomes good or bad. Right? You can have peanuts. Take peanuts. Some people love peanuts. They think it's a healthy food. Some people are deathly allergic to peanuts. Right?
Yeah.
Same food, right? It's not until we put our thoughts around it. So I had to shift my thoughts around food. I had to shift, and it wasn't just ice cream too, it was food in general. But like I did have this huge desire for this, the restrictive, like ice cream is really bad. So that was one of the foods I worked on. So it's shifting. It's also letting go of that guilt around when I did eat ice cream. So I shifted my thoughts, but I also had, like, when I would eat ice cream, I would feel guilty about it.
Mhm.
And so inviting in that curiosity and compassion and letting go of the guilt and knowing that that guilt just resulted in me like negative self-talk, overeating, eating more ice cream, right?
Mm.
Digestive issues, you know.
So even that guilt will end up in you wanting it more?
Yes.
Wow.
Because we like to self-sabotage, right? It's a way to punish ourselves.
Hmm.
We punish ourselves like, oh my God, I can't believe I did that. I shouldn't have done that. Right? I'm the worst person ever. You'll never lose weight. I may as well just keep eating.
Okay.
Especially if our goal is weight loss, right?
I see. Wow. I need to let go of guilt now that we're talking about it.
Yeah. That's an aha moment right there. A huge aha moment.
It is, because if just the
Yeah.
guilt is gonna make me want it more, I need to let go of the guilt when I got those meals. When I get that little piece of
Flan,
something sweet.
Yeah, the flan.
the flan.
The flan, yeah, the flan. Imagine, I need to let go of the guilt. That's an aha moment.
Yeah, that's huge. That is huge. And it's not easy. That's another thing that's not easy because we've been doing it for so long.
No, but if you're telling me, I have to let
There
it go.
you go, Claudia. Yes, you have to. Yeah.
Wow, I'm gonna put this in a piece of paper.
Hmm.
That's so funny. I'm gonna write it down on a piece of paper, because yeah, that's the first time that I understand that I need to let go of the guilt, so I won't have more desire for that food.
Yeah. Yeah.
Awesome, thank you.
Yeah, well, thank you everyone for sharing. We are coming up. I mean, we've gone a little bit over on the hour, so I want to respect your time, and I just want to thank you for being here. If you have any more questions, feel free to email me. I will be sending out the replay. So yeah, it's Monday. Have a wonderful rest of your week. And I hope to see you later. Bye, guys.
Thank you.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Bye.
So much.
Bye, Esther.
Thank you
Bye.
very much.
My grandson went
Thank
into
you.
another room, so I can turn on the camera now.
Ah.
Oh.
Bye, Esther. Thank
All
you.
right, thank